Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, March 15th, 2010, and if we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just for the record, today is a regular City Council meeting, and to make this meeting official, I ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Gutenkopf.
Here.
Pessa.
Here.
Shea.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Hipskin.
Here.
York.
Here.
Nybo.
Here.
Healy. Absent. Morley.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Moliner.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
13 present, 1 absent.
13 present, 1 absent. We have an official quorum. And on to item number 3, which is a opening of a public hearing for the tentative annual 2010-2011 budget for the City of Elmhurst. And at this time, I would like to open up the public hearing. If there's anybody that would like to speak regarding the proposed budget, please raise your hand. I will call on you. Please state your name and address, and I will open up the official public hearing. Again, this is for the 2010-2011 budget. Anybody for the public hearing? Okay. I will officially close the public hearing and go on to item number 4, which is receipt of written communications and petitions from the public. If there is anyone that has written communications and or petitions from the public, if you please rise and approach the council floor here and give those to Clerk Spencer. Anybody with written communications and or petitions? All righty. Seeing none, I will then go to our public forum portion of our meeting, where any Elmhurst resident has 3 minutes to speak on any issue regarding Elmhurst city business. And again, in this situation, I ask you to please raise your hand, and I will call on you, and you could take the microphone to my right or to my left, and please state your name and your home address, and then you have 3 minutes to speak regarding any issue here in Elmhurst. Is there anybody that would like to speak for public forum? This woman here in the green there.
My name is Tamara Brenner. I live at 137 North Caroline Avenue in Elmhurst. I'm trying with notes this time. Mr. DeCiani told us on February 16th that he intends for the prayer issue to be fully vetted by the Council Affairs Committee. Well, that's great, because that is how this process should proceed when a policy change is contemplated. Unfortunately, Mr. DeCiani himself is one major obstacle to the full vetting of this issue due to his obvious contempt for the process. From the start, he's been proclaiming that he already has the votes, both in committee and in the full council, to implement this initiative. Furthermore, he is disdainful of those that have expressed opposition. For instance, when the Council Affairs Committee did meet last week on March the 8th, 6 Elmhurst residents spoke, each and every one of them in opposition to the prayer initiative, and nobody from the community spoke in favor. After the meeting, Mr. DeCiani said, figuratively if not literally shrugging, that it's only 6 people, as if these 6 individuals represented the entire extent of opposition to his initiative in the community. Using that logic, since 0 people spoke in favor of the proposal at the committee meeting, I guess that means 0 people in town are in support. Another obstacle to the full vetting of this issue is occurring in the committee itself. 3 council people specifically requested that the committee undertake a discussion regarding the purpose of the initiative. The questions they asked to be answered simply are, what is the purpose of this initiative, and what problem would the city solve by implementing the proposal? Failure of the committee to take on these questions openly and honestly makes the whole process a sham, and I hope that Mr. Hipskin and Mr. York do take up these questions specifically and openly when they meet next time. The tradition in Elmhurst for the past 25 years plus has been no public prayer before City Council. Before changing that tradition, this council should be able to articulate a very clear reason and a very clear purpose. I don't envision any real benefit that would accrue to the community, but the potential for harm is clear if this proposal is implemented. The major harm would be divisiveness. In contrast to any intent that public prayer will bring people together or bring the council together, the actual effect is likely to be just the opposite. Religion divides people into us and them. I know that aldermen have already been called by constituents and asked about their personal beliefs, and they've been accused of not being religious enough, among other things, and this sort of thing shouldn't be happening. When you inject religion into government, that is what happens, though. You divide people along religious lines, even in the context of political discussion. Other potential harms include alienation, ongoing expenditure of city resources in the form of time, if not money, and potential exposure to legal action. Mr. DeCiani and the council members and all city residents are totally free to pray in the manner and the time that they choose, but the citizens at large of this community should not be subjected to an organized prayer as part of a public government function. The best way for the council to honor and respect the religious diversity of our community is to keep the city out of the prayer business.
Thank you, Miss. Anybody else for public comment at this time? This gentleman here in the aisle there.
My name is Bill Perry. I live at 300 East Oneida, Elmhurst. I'm here today because for the first time on Friday, while reading the Tribune, I learned about this prayer issue. To me, it's disturbing that this is even an issue. Our founding fathers guaranteed that this country the government shall remain religious neutral, period. That is clear from the historical documents, that's clear from the passage of the Constitution at the Constitutional Congress. The delegates, when given an opportunity at that convention, whether or not they should pray on an issue of importance, they specifically declined not to keep religion out of the purpose of, out of government and government out of religion. I don't like coming to these things. I don't like putting myself out there on these issues, but I thought when I read this, this is important. This is where we take a stand. Because my religion, I'm a Roman Catholic. My religion informs my life. It also informs my patriotism. My Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, said, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God." He specifically said that those two things do not meet, period. There's no exception to that. There's no exception in the First Amendment. It's troubling because we see that Jesus' pronouncement on that issue is borne out by history. Men are fallible. We saw that in the Inquisition. We saw that people burned at the stake in this country before the Constitution was passed. We saw that as of September 2001, we saw that in Afghanistan, when men were shot down in soccer stadiums and women were stoned to death under the auspices of government mixed with religion. We even see that even more today when we see the Texas Board of Education pass education standards where the sole agenda is to introduce religious conservatism into the education system, not to affect it tomorrow, not next week, not next year, but in 10 years, 15 years, where you're going to see a tyranny arise in this country based on religious principles. Our Constitution says, no, we are to remain neutral. Can it happen here in Elmhurst? No, I don't think it's going to happen here. This is a simple issue. It's only a prayer, okay? But that's removing one brick from that wall of separation. And once we remove that one brick of separation, the rest of the bricks are easy to come down, and those bricks can be used for something terrible. So on this prayer issue, I urge you, and the Constitution demands and requires of you to stay out of it.
Your 3 minutes are up, sir. Thank you. All righty. Anybody else for public forum at this time?
My name's Claude Bogach, and I live at 566 West Gladys. Last week, I had the privilege of sitting here and listening to the City Council.
Could you speak up a little? Claude, thanks.
Debate the new budget. City manager indicated that his budget is basically based on hope. Somehow, your city department heads have failed to understand that hope. Somehow they don't realize the situation that exists, not only in Elmhurst, but the rest of the state, the country, the whole. What I heard was they had a lot of wants. We would want this, and we would want that. Nothing about needs. Right now, this council is faced with a deficit You all were elected by the people to represent them. I hope you take the time to really look at this budget and only vote on what's needed for this city. Not the wants, but the needs. Because I'll tell you, $100 bills may grow on trees someday, but they're not going to grow this year. You don't have the money. The state don't have the money. And if you're depending on the state to come up with money, then you guys are in a real minority, because everybody else has no hope of getting any money from them at all. So really, represent the people that voted you in. Because if you don't, the deficit this year will be something you wish you had. Because if you vote in all at once, this deficit will look real small.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else for public forum at this time? Anybody else? All righty. I officially close the public forum and go on to our consent agenda. At this time, I would ask the council, are there any items that anyone might have a question on, possibly vote no on, at this time that you'd like to remove from the consent agenda? Anybody? All righty. Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion and,
Item M.
item M. Anybody else? Any other items? No? Okay. I'd ask for a motion and a second to approve the contents of the consent agenda, less item M. Alderman Pezza, Alderman Kennedy, and ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Pezza.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Pipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Nybo. Healy, absent. Morley.
Aye.
Mulliner. Wagner.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. The contents of the consent agenda are approved in their entirety, less item M. And now item M is an ordinance. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to read the ordinance, please.
An ordinance approving a text amendment to the City of Elmhurst zoning ordinance for the purpose of increasing the floor area ratio in the I-1 restricted industrial district.
And at this time, I'd ask for a motion and a second to put this ordinance on the floor, please. Alderman Rose with a motion.
I move acceptance of ordinance number ZO-02-2010.
Okay. And a second by Alderman Leader, and discussion. Alderman Rose?
This is the enabling legislation for the report that was passed 2 weeks ago to increase the floor area ratio to give us greater flexibility in the industrial park.
Very good. Any other discussion? Alderman Morley.
I pulled this, same reason I didn't participate in the discussion of the report. I own property in an R1 district or zone that could possibly be affected. So I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Okay. Alderman Morley, we appreciate your openness there. Any other questions or discussion on this issue before we call the roll, please? Okay. Alderman, Clerk Spencer, please call the roll.
Okay. Rose.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Pipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Nybo. Healy, absent. Morley.
Abstain.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
12 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent, and 1 abstention.
12 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent, and Alderman Morley abstaining. The ordinance does pass. And on to item number 7, which are committee reports. Item 7A is a report. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to read the report, please.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council authorize the surplus declaration from TIF 2 in the amount of $615,000 to be distributed in May 2010.
All right, this time,
Well, wait, signed by, respectfully submitted, and signed by Stephen W. Hipskin, Chairman, Kevin L. York, Vice Chairman, Mark Mulliner, and Diane Gutenkopf.
very good. And at this time, I ask for a motion and a second to put this report on the floor, please. Alderman Hipskin, Alderman York seconds, and discussion. Alderman Hipskin? Chairman?
Actually, I don't know what discussion there is to have on this. There is a surplus in TIF 2, which is approximately $615,000. Actually, that's the surplus amount that we're going to distribute out to the different taxing bodies, of which I think the school district is going to be the happiest about this. There's about $400,000, a little more than $400,000 going directly to the school district. This is a great example of the tool of a TIF really working very well, and it's kind of nice to have a surplus in the TIF and the ability to distribute that money out. Last time we did this was, I believe, in about 5 years ago. There was about $730,000 that we distributed out. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Very good. Those are good news for the school district, especially with a zero CPI virtually last year. So this will be I'm sure well received by District 205. So, and for the record, having served on many task force for the district, we had looked at our TIF districts back before I was elected mayor, and our TIFs are award-winning, and they have pumped millions of dollars back into our district annually. So sometimes there is a question, are TIFs good or bad for schools? And I think the way TIFs have been done in this town, they definitely have been good instruments for growth, and they've been mindful of our district. We've done carve-outs, cutouts, and but this is actually not a carve-out. This is actually a surplus, which I think is great. So.
And really, if you want to boil a TIF down, it's really a financial tool that we use, that the city uses. We have 3 different TIF districts. All, as you mentioned, have been very successful. And they give us a lot of flexibility if there are opportunities within the district itself to really maximize that area for economic development. So, I mean, there are our TIFs go back till the early 80s, and when they first started, and they've all been very successful, and Elmhurst is very lucky to have them.
Very good, very good. Any other discussion? Alderman Gutenkopf.
Yes, actually, this is more of a question. I'm wondering what projects we have looking forward that we may be engaging in this particular TIF that would use some of these funds in the future.
I will refer that to City Manager Borchert, but from what I understand, we don't have anything pending right now, so that's one of the reasons why we'd rather give the money to the school district rather than let it sit in the TIF. But I'll refer that specific to City Manager Borchert.
Mayor DeCiani is correct. The redevelopment plan and project as it relates to current work expectations is complete. The city has paid for the street improvements, and previous initiatives have been paid off. However, there is serious amount of the district is not developed to its redevelopment plan and project descriptions east of Walnut Street. If you're on 290 outbound, you can see a lot of parked construction equipment. That's not highest and best use for that property in the industrial park. The rest of what you can't see beyond that is in a similar condition, not at all highest and best use. So the strategic effort is to keep the tax income and financing district alive so that the city can play a part to ensure that proper development occurs when the private side is interested in proceeding. And in the interim, declare surplus and or consider other options. But immediate work anticipated in the area has been completed. I think there's some trees planted in the parkway for this coming season to complete the industrial park development for the area east of Walnut Street, and that'll be complete.
Very good. Any other discussion? Alderman Brown?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up along those lines, could City Manager Borchert please speak to the length of this current TIF and maybe even mention about the other TIFs, if possible? How much is remaining left on this TIF?
And while Mr. Borchert is looking for that, just for the record, the TIF we're referring to is the Lake and Walnut
The
TIF.
years right there.
Which is one of our 3 TIF districts. Our
Where
downtown is our main TIF, I believe it's TIF 1, and then we have the St. Charles and 83 TIF, which I believe is TIF 3, and TIF 2 is Lake and Walnut. So we've got 3 districts that are where we have tools to really incent and bring development, and that's why sometimes people might ask, what can we do at York and Villette to incent in those areas? Well, because that's not a TIF, because it's not an SSA, there's not a whole lot we can do in those areas without going into the general fund. So these TIF districts are really, they're meant to be tools for redevelopment, and that's why in the future too, we're kind of looking at areas that are going down in value right now, which actually is hurting our school district, and possibly looking at possible tools to help push those areas and economically incent them so that we can get growth and grow the tax base and ultimately help the other taxing bodies out. Because again, we're the only ones driving that bus. So, City Manager Borchert, do you have a chance to?
Yeah, TIF 1 is a Central Business District TIF, and absent the agreement with School District 205, which led to the approval by the General Assembly of a TIF 1 extension of 12 years, TIF 1 would be ending later this year. So TIF 1 in the Central Business District has the extension left, which is 12 years. TIF 2, the 23 years of the TIF, and at 2015-16, there might be I think there's a final distribution of the receipts of the 23 years of TIF in the 24th year, which would be 16-17. And TIF 3 is 83 in St. Charles, which I'm not certain of the end date. It was implemented before TIF 2. TIF 3 would end somewhere around 2020.
Thank you. The follow-up to that question, and one of the reasons why I asked that question was to put that knowledge out in the public, because the TIF districts are asked about a lot, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood how many TIFs we have in the city of Elmhurst and how much longer they will be in place. I do like the idea of keeping this TIF in place, at least for the near term, and distributing the surplus when we do have that capability like this year. It would be a shame to end it too soon and then not have that possibility of revitalizing the rest of that TIF district. But with that balanced thought, I just want to throw out there that we also have to keep in mind that, if possible, there would be some benefits to a TIF district in other parts of the city of Elmhurst. So I don't want to hang on to any one particular TIF too long in the hopes of seeing some redevelopment that may or may not come in the future.
And just for the record, too, each one of those TIFs are boundary, and the money produced from those TIFs either can be used, they have to be used within the TIF. For instance, our downtown TIF paid for the fountain project that some people are like, why are we doing a fountain? Well, we had, I think, $500,000 in state grants, but we also used $1 million out of our TIF fund, which we couldn't put into our general fund to pay bills. So that was used to reinvigorate our downtown. It didn't come out of the general fund and didn't come out necessarily of the taxpayers' tax bill, because that goes right into the general fund. So the TIF district is really used to stay within its boundary. That's why we can't use it to put stormwater retention in an area outside of the TIF or incent York and Villette, because again, it has to be used within the geographic area that it's boundaried by. Just an FYI, though, on the releases of the carve-outs, for instance, the Fifth Third development, I believe, gives almost $1 million a year to the other taxing bodies. So when we look at how successful these projects have been and how much revenue they generate for our schools, and those are carve-outs that are going every year to the school district. One thing I also wanted to mention, I thought that this was pretty creative as well, too, because in some cases, if you release property in the TIF, the school districts and the park districts, the other taxing bodies, get the lift for the first year, but then after that, the tax caps kick in, okay? So in this case, we're kind of circumventing the tax cap and giving more money than the school district would normally get. So in this particular case especially, the school districts are very, very happy that this will be released. And again, with the zero CPI last year, had these been released earlier, it would have been a flat increase for them. So another representation. Again, we've got other municipalities coming to us for advice on TIF because we've grown it and done well with our school districts at the same time. So again, having served probably on more school committees than I have city committees, I can attest to looking them through and making sure we're getting the best bang for the buck. So, Alderman Hipskin?
I have a question for City Manager Borchert. Does TIF 2 and TIF 3 qualify for the 12-year extensions? I know that TIF 1 did, but there has been some changes in the laws around TIFs.
Yes.
So those would be grandfathered in. But TIFs have changed quite a bit in the last 10 years, haven't they? So a new TIF is much more difficult to achieve at this point, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Any other discussion? And the surplus, which we are giving back to the school district, I think it's a good thing, and I think the school district will be very happy. We'll be getting over $400,000. So, Alderman Pezza.
Thank you. I think we should also make it clear it's not just going to the schools. There are other...
Park district?
Yes.
Absolutely.
They're not the only ones getting...
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I think the joy of progress and development is that the school district can't drive the economic development bus, nor can the park district. We're driving that bus. So it's important for us to drive the bus effectively, to use the tools to our best, and to grow that tax base for those kids. And I think, I think we probably have more young guys up here, and even some of our older folks that understand economic development, understand that this is about the kids. It's about our schools. It's about our parks, and we're driving that bus. So if there's anybody that's going to be more mindful of the children, I think we've got a council that's young and I know I've got 3 kids in public schools, and Alderman Wagner's got a slew of kids. Alderman Hipskin, I think, has got us all beat. So Nibel's catching up. So if there's anybody watching the purses for everybody, I think we've got a good council, good group up here, united to make sure we're doing the right thing. So with that, any other discussion? If not, I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Hipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Healy, absent. Morley.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Number
Wagner.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. The report for the surplus of TIF 2 carries. And on to item B, which is another report. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to read that report as well. Thank you.
Therefore, it is the recommendation of the Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee that the City Council authorize the City Attorney to prepare the proper documents for the formal City Council approval of Kathy Maloney and the Feinzel Community Marketing Firm to provide consulting services for the City of Elmhurst per the guidelines and per the assignment described above. Respectfully submitted, Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee. Signed by Stephen Morley, Chair, Susan J. Rose, Vice Chair, and Norman Leader, Alderman, 2nd Ward.
All righty. Before I ask for a motion in a second, I would like to preface this report in that we have made some changes here at City Hall. We've are going to more of a, because of budget, because the money is tight, we are looking to go with less of an employee-driven economic development staff and more of a contract economic development staff. We are going to recruiters. We are going to people that will go out there and actually actively seek out businesses to come to our community. These people are proven. We're going to net save quite a bit of dollars, which I think is important considering our budget. And in the end, I think we're going to be more effective with this process. So with that, I'd ask for a motion and a second to put this report on the floor, please. Alderman Morley, and a second by Alderman Rose. And discussion. Alderman Morley?
Thanks for the lead-in, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
start? This is about economic development in Elmhurst, and the mayor alluded to it. Over the last year and a half, I think we've lost 2.5 people, 2.5 positions in the development department. The EEDC has been working on, and all of us collectively have been working on how to continue keeping our foot on the gas, so to speak, with regard to economic development here in Elmhurst. What we're finding out, or the consensus seems to be that we've got to figure out how to keep the pressure on, but do it in a more cost-effective way. As I mentioned, when you certainly reduce staff, you reduce other costs that come with it, whether it's pension or insurance or other stuff of that matter. And what we end up doing is attempting to privatize some of what we were doing before. That allows us to be more efficient, gives us a little more control, and that's part of the recommendation that's in the EEDC report that is coming. That having been said, we met as a committee 3 separate times to review Finds All Community Marketing. It's owned by Kathy Maloney. Kathy has consulted with the city in the past. Her consulting role was eliminated a couple of years ago due to budget constraints, but we brought her before the committee and reconsidered a proposal that was submitted. As a committee, we asked city staff what other steps they had taken and what other avenues they had looked at. They had looked at, entertained a whole bunch of things to start with. 2 other private consultants that they felt were not as good a fit as Finds All Marketing. There was also some discussion of whether or not the chamber or the city center could fill this role specifically. In the end, we did review the proposal from Finds All Marketing. We met on 3 separate occasions. Couple of things we discussed, certainly past successes, and there's a list attached to the report. But the other thing that we discussed, quite frankly, was times are tight, and we're interested certainly in the money aspect. So one of the things that the committee told Finds All Marketing and also informed Chief Kopp is that this is something we're going to take a close look at. We're going to keep our eye on. This isn't something that we just approve and we never look at again. We want to see results. We want to see results quickly, and we're going to ask for those results to be quantified. Another issue that came up during our meeting and was discussed on all 3 occasions was as we go into this more privatizing of some of the roles that the city normally filled, we're going to have more consultants on than we normally did. Specifically, we've got Mr. Charlie Van Slyke and we've got Ken Bartels. And we wanted to make sure there was a definition between the roles. And after I've had my chance, I would like to offer Assistant City Manager Kopp, who is in charge of all of this, the opportunity to fill in the gaps. Mr. Van Slyke will continue in his role of the real estate consulting, focusing mainly on property management, leasing, and property assemblage. Mr. Bartels has really a 3-fold responsibility. He'll be involved in consulting and strategic fundraising for the Heritage Foundation and the Elmhurst Historical Museum, PR for the city, and also economic development. So we have a lot of consultants working on various parts in the city, and really it's going to be up to Chief Kopp to make sure that if and when they do overlap, it's in a productive manner. With that, I will entertain any questions and hope you will support this report.
Very good. Thank you, Alderman Morley. Chairman, any questions or discussion? Alderman Mulliner.
Yeah, this is one that I'm struggling a lot over this particular report. We're in very tight budget times. I'm very much in favor of economic development, doing everything that we possibly can, but we've just cut an entire department, the Planning and Development Department within the city. That department, for all practical purposes, is gone. We've hired Ken Bartels, and Charlie Van Slyke's been working for us for a long time. And Kathy is somebody who has worked in the past in kind of a combination with City Center and with the city to do recruitment and retention and all of the other things that she does a very fine job of. However, back in 2007 or whatever year, I believe it was 2007, we determined that we didn't have the dollars to spend to do that. And one of the reasons why we cut the department was because of the fact that we were under a budget deficit. And I'm very concerned about the situation right now as to spending more money to basically what we're going to be doing for the next couple of years, and we can pretend like we're going to do something different, but we're going to be doing retention. Our next 2 years is focused on retention. It's on can we save the businesses that are in this town, and if we're lucky, we may be able to get another 1 or 2 businesses to move into the town, but the reality is it's not going to be on going out and beating the bushes because businesses are not expanding, and they won't be for the next couple of years. The economy nationwide, we've seen it, isn't coming back as rapidly as everybody's expecting, and I'm not, at this point, totally in favor of supporting this, at least right now. I could support the concept of leaving some money in a budget for this for maybe 6 months down the road, but at this point I just can't see supporting this because we're trying to save money. We're trying to find places where we can save money, and I think this is one of the spots that we can save some money because the reality is that we've got people out recruiting right now. We've got people out trying to do retention, and to add one more person on top of it, I just don't know if this is the right time to do that.
Okay. And just for the record, we're really missing that recruiting arm right now. We don't, Mr. Van Slyke is not a recruiter. Mr. Bartels is, a third of his time is done on retention and recruitment. But the missing link here is recruitment. And the net savings is big by going to the outside services, contractual services, and also I think the flexibility and the just for the thought here, the accountability. If one of our contractors doesn't perform and we are not happy, I believe there is a clause in the contract where we could actually make adjustments. So
Point of order.
Yeah.
Point of order. I just want to ask the city attorney if the mayor can engage in debate on this at this point.
Well, the mayor's the chairman, and
Yeah.
he in fact, well, I mean, he directs the dialogue, I guess, but so
I'm just asking whether
Yeah.
that it is appropriate for the mayor to engage in debate on this issue at this point before we all have had an opportunity.
I don't know if it was debate. It probably was comment. I just, as the parliamentarian, I think the mayor has the ability to do that.
Thank you, City Attorney. And so I think we need to think big picture here and think that we are going to have a considerable net savings, and I think we will have a much more measurable return on investment, and the department will be much smaller and much leaner, and I think in the end we'll have a better team. And if the team doesn't perform the way we need it to perform, we can make changes, and we're not paying workman's comp, we're not paying health insurance, we're not paying life insurance, no pension, et cetera. So just adding the conversation here and in discussion. So, and I appreciate Alderman Rose for the interjection. Anybody else for discussion? Alderman Brown?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually want to, first off, I wanted to just say that I distributed to everybody on the dais just a table of what was of information that was actually included in the report, but for a visual on what has been done while Kathy Maloney has been a part of the Elmhurst family, really to allow everybody to visualize the attempt at recruiting, what has been done, what businesses turned out to come into Elmhurst, et cetera. Just to do a quick summary for the audience is from 2001, I'm not sure exactly when was initiated, but from 2001 to the very beginning of 2009, out of all the businesses that were contacted, a total of 9 were at least stated in the report. I have no further documentation on this, but we're stated in the report that those 9 were recruited. I do want to highlight that some of those years were the good years in the city of Elmhurst, in Illinois, across the nation. My guesstimate is about 2004, 5, and 6, where you see, and I'm focusing on recruitment because I think that's the main core from what I've heard from the report and commentary, that would be the position of Feinzoll. So those years, the very prosperous years across the nation, there's been approximately 4 out of those 9 being recruited. The lean years, before that and after that, we saw 2 to 3. My concern is with the decision that was made, I believe it was last year, Alderman Mulliner, during budget discussions, at least was in the budget discussion meeting minutes, was not to rehire this particular consultant due to budget constraints. My concerns are the report doesn't show, it does mention in regards to criteria. I have not seen anything in regards to past production to really, in all due respect, warrant moving forward on this in lean economic times. We did change in regards to the Economic Development Department, which is very true, but we also made other changes. We added in a consultant. We actually, and I don't want to throw him on the fire here, but we have a change in the organizational structure of an additional assistant city manager that will be able to focus a little bit more on the economic development piece than previously when we didn't have an assistant city manager. The other thing is, and I would like to make a request of the committee if I may, I'm a little bit confused in the role that is being proposed here, because the recommendation actually states for the city council approval of Kathleen Maloney and the Feinzoll Community Marketing Firm to provide consultant services for the city of Elmhurst per the guidelines, etc. Above, it actually mentioned on how Feinzoll would resume their work on what they did for City Center. By looking at the recruitment that was done in the past, all the businesses that were recruited seemed to be, and I don't know every single one, except maybe my favorite toy store, City Center businesses. So is this role for across the city of Elmhurst, or is this role for City Center? Because I haven't seen, at least in past production, across the city of Elmhurst that was documented in the report. And even though City Center is very important, we do have various consultants and various organizational bodies focusing on City Center, where in other parts of the city of Elmhurst, I think we need that emphasis more.
I believe this across the board, but I'll refer to City Manager Borchert on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As requested, the recommendation sentence does say, per guidelines and assignment described above. That refers really to the last paragraph on the first page, which suggested with the approval of the committee report, the Feinzoll contract would be $85 an hour, 8 hours a week, total hours not to exceed 500 per year. It's citywide. There isn't any split with the proposal going forward with the City Center. Previous engagement was referred to earlier was one where there was either 50-50 or 60-40 split, I forgot exactly, between the city and the special service area for retailing contractual services for the central business district. Going forward, this is a city initiative to be supervised by assistant manager with strong emphasis from the Economic Development Commission, probably a recommendation coming forward to increase the number of commissioners on that Economic Development Commission to assist the city with the retention using those volunteers, which are for free. The emphasis would be for the consultant to provide significant intelligence to our city initiative on the marketing strategies and e-commerce activities. I want to emphasize those two areas of emphasis. Overall strategic marketing concepts and plans and intelligence from the region to be focused on Elmhurst and how Elmhurst can be most effective with its marketing, utilizing the volunteers, and also significantly to investigate and to inform and to educate and to collaborate with the Economic Development Commission's help our entire Elmhurst community on e-commerce activities to try and take advantage of that broadening market. There is a huge, what's referred to as sales tax leakage, sales tax purchasing of Elmhurst residents where they make those purchases outside the city of Elmhurst. Be a strong effort to reduce that amount of leakage to a smaller number, take advantage of that Elmhurst purchasing power to be applied to the various Elmhurst businesses for the advantage of those Elmhurst businesses to be successful and for the advantage of the Elmhurst sales tax then staying in the city of Elmhurst. I would strongly recommend that the committee report be approved by the majority of the council to allow this initiative to go forward. We'll continue to take questions.
Very good. Alderman Wagner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask the chairman a question. Alderman Moore?
At the will of the chairman.
At the will of the chair.
Absolutely.
Can I ask the chair?
Absolutely.
Was it considered, is there a stopgap that's considered in here at all? Is there any kind of review after 6 months?
Yes, and as a committee chair, I'm sure you can appreciate, you can't fit 3 meetings worth of conversation into one report. The mayor touched on it briefly, but with all of our consulting contracts, I don't know if you want to call it a ripcord, but there's a mutual termination clause. And City Attorney Serino can expound on it, but it's either 30 or 60 days. At any given time, we can terminate our agreement with this consultant, as with our other 2 consultants.
Very good.
Just to follow up?
Sure.
Listening to the debate is fantastic. These are obviously, doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway, terrible economic times. But one of the interesting things about these great recessions is they spawn entrepreneurialism. And it's really fantastic that something like that can occur, that people don't just sit on their hands, they actually go out and do it. I personally don't have the time or the wherewithal to find people to come into Elmhurst to try to bring in new streams of revenue myself. And I think we will absolutely need somebody out there recruiting in all spectrums of business to come to Elmhurst. It's a great place to work, to live, and to raise a family. I would just like everybody to consider this. A vote no for this is, in my opinion, a vote to sit on your hands and kind of wait for things. And I think we have to go back to the market. We have to be proactive and go after the business that's out there. And it sounds like Ms. Maloney has that ability. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman Wagner. Alderman Nabel, you had a hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can understand.
Alderman Nabel, would you fix your mic real quick so we could hear you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I can understand Alderman Mulliner's concerns, and I think they're valid, and I've been thinking about them for the last couple turns here at the microphone. And it's a good question to be asked. When the market's not in your favor, anybody who sells a product or service, arguably that's the timing when marketing and investing in marketing is most important. When your economy's good, when the revenue's coming in, when business is growing, marketing is needed and it's important, as it has been over the last 6 or 7 years. But I think it's really in a down economy when the opportunities are more scarce, when we really need to be more focused on trying to capture them. And so while I understand Alderman Mulliner's concerns, and whereas last year or the year before, I might have been in favor of not supporting a renewal or extension of this contract. Given what's happened over the last 18 months, I've actually gone in a different direction. I think we do need to focus on bringing businesses and identifying those opportunities. There won't be as many of them, but those that are out there, I want to have the best chance to bring for our community as opposed to any other community that's out there.
Alderman Nabel, Alderman Shea.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for the committee and then a follow-up. Who supplied the retail business summary to you?
Steve Kopp gave it to us.
I I just want to know, was it from Feinzall? Okay, all right. In the past, Kathy Maloney, she was hired as a retail consultant to bring small business to Elmhurst. Her salary was paid a third City Center and 2/3 City of Elmhurst. City Center Board decided to review her services because they felt they weren't getting desired results. When asked by the board, Kathy herself said she couldn't bring in new business as before because of the economy. So after reviewing her services, the board felt her targeting of small business was narrowly focused, and they were left wondering, where are her qualifications for this economic environment? The City Center Board decided that continuing with the contract was not an effective use of their dollars. After receiving the retail summary and being a member of City Center myself, I looked at it as a resume, and I decided to call the businesses listed as references. The business owners contacted were asked how they started their business and what help they received. Basically, they told me they received the kind of business, or they researched the kind of business they wanted to pursue. They wrote their business plan, scouted out their location on their own, and they contacted the landlord themselves. The corporate-owned companies that are on here, I called and talked to them, and they said their real estate department, through demographics selected Elmhurst, found their location and contacted the landlord directly. The business owners contacted were surprised with what was portrayed compared to what really happened. So I agree with the board, City Center Board. Where are her qualifications in this economic times? And this is not a good use of our dollars. When the economy improves, this position, if needed, should and could be revisited.
Very good. Alderman Shee, what was the date on that report, just out of curiosity? That report you're referring to from City Center? No, the date on that?
The date.
I think it's City Center.
Okay.
Oh, when I called them? I just called them
Okay.
a few days ago and talked with City Center, and they told me what went through there. They were trying to be as delicate as possible.
Gotcha.
But I wrote down exactly what they told me.
Very good. Alderman Pezza?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, when I saw this item on the agenda, I thought, wow, this is really a tough decision, because we absolutely need and want more stores, but is this a core and critical service at this time? I know we let two and a half employees in this department go to save money, and you know, after raising taxes, we just finished promising people we would be very careful with how we were spending their money. So I decided to take a look at this from a purely business perspective, nothing personal, strictly business, and that's the way this needs to be addressed. I did a couple of things. First, I wanted to start with just taking a close look at the actual proposal and comparing the Feinzall services and their proposal to what we already have in place here in town. So what I did was I looked at the chamber. I believe we have a great chamber. They're doing a great job. They bring businesses together. They promote business. They're starting up a new Buy Elmhurst campaign. I really think they've stepped up to the plate, and they will continue. City Center, we've got Tom and Julia and crew. They're doing an excellent job. They've got great promotions, great signage, the no bulletin, updates, the new Christmas decor, coupons, etc. We just hired Mr. Bartel's Consulting. You know, that's a $90 an hour contract. I review the bills every month. I know he's working hard. We've just renewed Van Slyke. That's a $100 an hour contract. I look at those bills every month. He is working very hard. We have Marlene Tegmeyer. She's doing an awesome job. I know I've talked to her several times. I think she's working triple time. She works with the Chamber and the City Center, promoting Elmhurst heavily. We have our Economic Development Commission. I know Assistant Manager Kopp has expressed he's working toward redeveloping that commission, broadening their base, and I know they're working hard. And then we can't forget the commercial real estate brokers who actually have the listings on these storefronts. I would bet they're working harder right now than anybody in this market to put food on their table and make a commission and get those places rented. So I'm quite impressed with what we have going on. I realize everyone does have to step it up, it's not just staff and consultants, but it's the business owners and even the private institutions like our college support us. And I think the residents are all working together also to bring support. So I looked at that, and then I looked at a second area, which was, as somebody looking to hire a new person, what do? You look at their resume and you check out their references. I have many of these businesses in my ward, and what prompted this was I received phone calls from 4 very prominent Elmhurst business people and business owners who expressed strong concern to me as an alderman, someone deciding whether or not to spend this money right now, about the rehiring of the firm, or any firm for that matter right now. And that got me thinking, and that prompted me to then call several of the other businesses that were listed on this resume. And what I found a little bit unsettling was, as I kept calling, I could not find any of these other businesses to support what the report was calling for at this time either. And I thought, wow, who would know better other than all these business owners? I also read to them what was described as to the services they received, and they had a lot of discrepancy with what was described. I just look at this and say any smart business owner in today's economy would sit down, if they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in one area, and if they feel there is that missing link somewhere, what would you do as a business owner? In this economy, I would say you're not going to run out and hire more people and spend more money. You're hopefully going to sit down, look at what you've got going on, reassess, restructure, and redistribute the work from within before you start spending more money and go outside again. I don't think the lack of new business isn't for a lack of hardworking people. It's the economy. And I think we need to face that and concentrate on retention and support of what we have going on here and the wonderful people that are trying to make ends meet and stay open in our community. I mean, if we are lucky enough to get more business, and I really hope we do, if we lose 3 to 4 others in the meantime, what have we really achieved? And that's what I don't want to see happen. Another concern when it comes to the money part is we already have 2 consultants, which is great. We need people doing this. You know, if we're paying $190 an hour for them to converse, if we have a third one, we'll now be paying $275 an hour for the 3 of them to converse. That's a lot of money. My other concern is if I'm hiring someone to solicit new business to our town, I want that person to work exclusively for me, for Elmhurst. If they're also working for another community, such as Wheaton, as this company does, Wheaton, I look at as our competition. So I really don't feel comfortable with somebody paying someone to market my community, and at the same time, they're trying to sell the other community. You know, what's to say, you know, and it would make sense to sit down with Susie Q Shoe Store and say, do you want to come? There's a great place in Elmhurst. There's a great place in Wheaton. I'd like you to come to one of them. But yet, are we both being billed? And what if one or none of us gets that store? I didn't see any provision for that in the contract or the job description. Just quickly, I think there was a couple more things. You know, I believe these are obviously very unique times. I think Elmhurst has an advantage, and we need to identify exactly what that is, keep hold of it, work with it, move forward with it, and when the market bounces back, hopefully sooner rather than later, I think we should go forward and re-examine this and look at, you know, this company and perhaps some others to revisit it when we've, as Alderman Mullner said, when we've got more money to spend. But right now, let's utilize what we've got going on. And I honestly cannot find any compelling reason at this time to go forward with this. I would like to see us put it on hold for 6 months, and in the meantime, really aggressively address all these bodies we've got working for us now and see if we can't find that missing link and make work what we're already paying for. So.
Very good. Alderman Pezza. Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you. I have questions about this process, and I have questions in 3 areas. I could express these questions one at a time and come back to them, or I could sort of throw out these 3 areas and we could tackle them one at a time. But my first set of questions relates to this particular service provider versus other potential providers. I know that the committee reviewed 3 potential providers, but with no bids or analysis of the other providers attached to this report. I'm curious as to what their bids were for these services and what their qualifications were, and along with that, how they went out and solicited these potential service providers. I know that Feinzall had an existing relationship with the city, but I'm curious as to how we sort of spread our wings and looked for the set of services and how broadly it was.
City Manager Borchardt, I'll let you answer that question.
Yep. Excellent question. City staff reviewed the thoughts that we had as a team as to needs. Did interview a real estate consulting contract, inquired of that individual their abilities, their interest, et cetera, in such an assignment for Elmhurst. An individual indicated a agreement of a need, as the city staff at least had identified a need, did not indicate a desire to respond to that need. Affirmed for myself that at least this other professional felt that the city's staff team had identified a need and that we should proceed. I also interviewed an independent consultant that expressed an interest in doing this work. Did not believe that individual needs were going to be adequate for the city of Elmhurst's application. And then we, as a city team, interviewed the Feinzall group on 2 different occasions, recognizing it was professional service, then negotiated potential parameters of a contract and brought that specific professional service arrangement to the committee's attention, and you have their committee. The city staff did not advertise generally for professional services for this area. We solicited specifics and brought forth a firm that we recommended to the committee. So we did not advertise for professional service providers.
Very good. Alderman Gutenkopf.
My second set of questions essentially relates to measures of success, and I'm a little concerned. On the dais tonight was a summary of work. It's titled Summary of Work by Kathy Maloney for the City of Elmhurst, and it lists businesses recruited, businesses for which locations were found, and businesses that were assisted. 9 businesses are listed on this sheet, and of them, a third are already gone, and I wonder if this 33% retention failure rate is something we ought to address. I think it just strikes me as high. The mayor mentioned during his State of the City address that we have a 97% occupancy rate in the downtown business district, which I think is wonderful, and I'm kind of trying to reconcile this this retention loss, if you will, of a third of the businesses listed on this sheet with some of these other issues. So what I'm struggling with here is, how do we identify whether or not a consultant has been successful in recruiting these new businesses? How do we identify what our overall need is if we've got already an occupancy rate that's really high? How does that jibe with this sort of feeling that we need somebody else to do something that it sounds like we have an awful lot of help already doing. I want to know what the definition of retail businesses assisted is. I don't know what that is. Assisted with what? Did she write the grant applications for the business grants? What does that mean?
City Manager Borchert, one thing, Kathy's a very humble lady, and she will not take credit for everything, so she typically will, I think those notes are if she was involved in part of the recruitment or assisting in part of it, but I'll let City Manager Borchert answer the question. But she's worked with the team, she's recruited certain businesses and brought them, and others she's assisted, and it sounds like, but I'll let City Manager clarify that.
I just want a definition of assisted, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
I think we need one of those.
Okay, sounds good. We'll give you a definition of assisted. Yeah.
Point of order, I think Alderman Gutenkopf was out of line with the last comment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Gosh, thanks for pointing that out. Thank you.
Yeah, we get a lot of point of orders up here, so I'll make sure that try to keep everybody keep the meeting going and keep everybody happy here. City Manager Borchert, would you like to give the definition of assisted? I think that's a tough one. I don't know. Can you handle that?
She helped.
Okay. Right. All right. Okay. And I look at the list here. I see Panera Bread, Salon Athena, La La Land. I see Lucky Strike, Ready, Uptown, Shop, Dick Pond. We've got some nice stores here that I think are anchors. Panera Bread is a location I frequent virtually every other day. City Manager Borchert.
I would report that all of what I've heard relative to concerns, city staff team had those concerns. We have those concerns. We share those concerns. A lot of folks find their way to Elmhurst, as stated, all on their own. Elmhurst is a great place. Elmhurst is a great central business district, great industrial park, a lot of great things. A lot of good people will find Elmhurst because they should, and they will. But there's others that fall in the cracks, and it was our consensus as a staff that we should do a more than reasonable effort, an Elmhurst-style effort, to try to do all of what could be done to allow the Elmhurst community to be the best that it could be. Our emphasis is frankly not on the retention. Retention is going to be an emphasis of the Economic Development Commission with strategic planning done by city staff as to how we target the retention visits. Most of the work will be done by the volunteer group. The recruitment in a marketing plan for the recruitment, again, we were seeking some strategic direction from somebody that had more knowledge of this than any of our city team. That would be the strategic direction on recruitment efforts and marketing efforts. Our concept is that the Feinzoll team would provide that strategic direction. A lot of the deployment of actual efforts would be done through the city staff and through the Economic Development Commission. What none of us have the insight on is how to capture the e-commerce activities, and wanted to just go back and touch on that. We're seeking from Feinzoll, again, strategic direction for the Elmhurst community on how to take advantage of e-commerce activities. That's the notion. This isn't as objective as I would like it to be. There's a lot of subjectivity here. But overall, the economic development effort needs to be strategic, needs to be structured, needs to be organized, and an effort made where the best possible and best probable returns would be received with the Elmhurst community as the beneficiary. That's the objective of bringing Feinzoll to the existing team. I appreciate the comments of the existing city team. I agree with those. It's a great group that can do good things, has done good things, will continue to do good things. We believe that the Feinzoll group will complement that, supplement that, and allow us to be more strategic. It's your policy call.
Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, since we're talking about a potential contract of $42,500, I do think that it's probably in the city's best interest for us to really understand what services Ms. Maloney has provided to the city and what specific activities we're expecting from her in the future. So I really think that we've skirted this question of what she's done to assist businesses so far. Just because a business moved in or expanded while Ms. Maloney was being paid by the city center group and by the city of Elmhurst doesn't mean that she had anything to do with it. So I don't think that it's out of line for us to really expect a definition of what activities consisted or what activities come under this umbrella of assisting. I mean, I understand what recruited a business might mean, and I might define that as I went out, found a business, and asked them to come to our community. I can see that as a legitimate definition of recruited. Found a location for may mean that a person identified a business and sought an appropriate site for that business to open. But I really don't come easily to a definition of assisted. And since the majority of her activities to date have been in that category, it might help us understand how helpful she could be if we had a clearer view of what assisted means.
Thank you, Alderman. And anybody else for discussion? Alderman Rose.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think there's a couple of key questions here. The first one is that have been raised here, and I think they're good questions. One, do we have the money? I think that's an important question. Two, is Fines all competent to do this work? Three, should we even be doing this? And let me just take these kind of in order. Do we have the money? So that's a really good question. There's a part of me that says, I want to take it if we don't do this. My perspective, and I think Alderman Muller raises a really good point here, my concern, I think, is that we would be penny wise and pound foolish. I want to tell a little story for those people who, I think this is interesting, who believe I have no familiarity, however, with biblical tradition or knowledge. I would like to tell a little story here that is within the bounds of the New Testament, where a master left town, left several of his servants with what he calls talents, which was money. He was gone for a while, and he came back, and he wanted to know what people had done with his money, what his servants had done with his money. Some of the servants came, look what I did. I took your money, and I spent it, and I made more money. And several of them did that. He came to one guy who said, listen, I was so worried about losing your money that I took and buried it, and I'm going to give you the exact same amount of money you gave me when you left. I think that's investment. And the master said to him, boy, you are a bad servant. You have done nothing for me. And I would say to you that that's akin to what we have here. This little parable, this little story is about investing. Do we have the money for it? We can take all our money and say, no, we don't have the money for it. I think that investing in creating more money is something that we should be doing. I think Alderman Pezza has an excellent point. Should we even be doing this? I think that's a really good point, and I've thought about that a lot. I did a little digging, however. The National League of Cities, in their latest report, said that municipalities, one of the things they are increasingly responsible for is economic development. We used to be responsible primarily for sewers and forestry and paving the streets, but almost all municipalities now see as one of their core services, and I think that's an excellent term that Alderman Pezza uses. Their core services are providing for economic development. So I come down and say, yeah, it is a core service. Do we have the money to do it? I think we make the money. We prioritize where our money is at this point. There's several key things about this that I just want to emphasize that Kathy Maloney we are not contracting with Kathy Maloney. We're contracting with a new company she has created, which is Fines All, which is more than Kathy Maloney. So that's one of the first things to say. A key difference in what she will be doing is, and I want to emphasize this with a little more practical story, has to do with e-commerce, soliciting more e-commerce for the city. Tonight, in fact, we approved an ordinance for Lucky Motors. This business is based on the internet. This is a business that has the potential to bring us a tremendous amount of sales tax, high-end luxury cars through the internet. This is what we should be doing. Bricks and mortar, I know we love our downtown. I think it's cute. I think it's lovely. Bricks and mortar, we all love that. But e-commerce is the future, and it's the future of this city. And to get someone who has an appreciation and understanding of that, absolutely. I think that's where we should go. Previously, it is true that Miss Maloney primarily focused on City Center. That was her contract, to focus on City Center. We are looking now further than that. It comes down to the last issue, because I think that's the one a lot of people are discussing, which is Kathy Maloney and Fines All, as the principal of Fines All, is she competent to do this work? I would call your attention actually to a report, and I apologize for not having it here on the dais, from 2 years ago, where we very specifically, at the time, I had some of the very same questions. What exactly is she doing? We detailed out at that point in terms of the numbers of trade shows, the kinds of cold calls that she did, the follow-up calls that she did, all of those things that go into that operational definition of assisting, which I think that's a really good point that Alderman Gutenkopf is making. It was clear to me that her activities were very focused on that. Is she competent to do this work? I think the proof's in that. We certainly thought so for 7 years when we kept her on. I think that she was responsible for bringing these in. Did she do these for herself? No, not everybody does it herself. That's not how it operates. It just does not do it that way. But I think to simply say that it's not causative, that they just occurred while she was here, I don't think that's the full picture of what Ms. Maloney did. But it does raise for me a concern about this. I will say that the third to the last sentence here, the performance of Fines All will be monitored and reviewed on a monthly basis. I think that that's key, and I think operationally we should actually have that on a monthly basis. My concern is the same concern I had when we hired Mr. Bartels. I said at that point, I said, I think Ken Bartels is a wonderful guy, but I think we have to have benchmarks here. At the time, the city manager said, that's the responsibility of the management team to develop those benchmarks. And I think that's exactly what we need here. Process is what we knew a lot about. How many hours was spent in doing recruiting? Process is nice. We don't have the luxury for process. What we want is outcome. And outcome is, what are the successful businesses that are being brought here? Those are the benchmarks I want to see, and I would like to direct the city manager to develop those for this particular contract. In the end, we got it out. If next month you look at that listing of her activities and the outcome of her activities, and you say we're not getting our money's worth, we have an out. I would caution us, however, to not jump on it on a month. I think that's, while Fines All and Kathy Maloney are pretty knowledgeable about this community, a month is actually a pretty short period of time. I'd give us a couple months, but I will be the first person in 2 months, if all I see is, gee, Kathy Maloney's been on the phone a lot, which I think Alderman Pez is concerned about, I'll be the first person to say, let's think about something else here. But I think that we have to look at what real activity is, what's the projected outcome of the activity, set a benchmark for that, and then do it. I am in favor of this, and I intend to vote for this, and I would encourage all of us to have the courage and the will to do that at this point, because we can change our mind in 2 months.
Well done, Alderman Rose. Thank you. Anybody didn't go? Alderman Brown, did you already speak, or I'm just trying to make sure I get everybody an opportunity to? Okay. Alderman Pezza spoke already. I'll go to Alderman Brown, and then Alderman Gutenkopf and Alderman Pezza. How's that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to kind of go off of the criteria or benchmarking, because that is one of my concerns in regards to the report. And I want to actually refer to the report. But before I do that, 1 second, I want to refer to past productivity. 2008, according to the report, there is no recruitment, no found locations, and no assistance. According to the report, I do have concern. Those were tough economic times. It's probably worse today than it was then, and we really didn't get any benefit of having a contract back then. Early of last year, we decided not to continue the contract as a whole. In regards to the agreement, I have concerns in regards to this agreement. There was mentions of, bless you. There was mentions of being able to terminate this at any said time. Well, according to the contract, that was at least a part of the first report before it got pulled back to committee. The agreement actually makes statement that any changes in the contract duration shall only be granted upon written agreement between both parties. So that means if us as the city council decide that we no longer want to terminate, we need written agreement between both parties. I'm not an attorney, but that's what it says verbatim. So to me, it sounds like even if we say, okay, 2 months we reviewed and we don't see the progress we would like to say, even 6 months down the line, we still need to continue forward with this agreement. And this agreement, the contract duration, the sentence above it says, this is an agreement to compensate Feinzoll for consulting services from February 15, 2010, which is passed, through April 30th, 2012. It's approximately a 2-year contract. So I'm hearing conflicting things, and this agreement raises concern. If we want to take small steps, if we think that this is the right consultant to go with, we're definitely jumping in with both feet right away without any way out. So we're committing ourselves to $90,000, no matter if the criteria is met or not, according to what I'm reading verbatim as part of the agreement, unless the city attorney or the committee would like to correct me that these words don't mean that in the legal term.
I think you're going to get corrected here.
Love to
City
correct.
Manager, yeah.
Oh, well, sorry.
City Manager Borchert.
I believe what Alderman Bram has attached is a response to the city's request to Feinzoll for putting their proposal, their hourly fee together in a proposal for us, and it was put on the, as I understand it, the traditional Feinzoll contract form. We've explained to Feinzoll that with the City of Elmhurst, it's going to be on a City of Elmhurst contract form. What will go in the contract is $85 an hour, about 8 hours a week, not to exceed 500 for a year, and our termination language, which is Mr. Storino's language, which is basically like a day's notice.
Okay, so we're not following actually what was attached to the previous report that we received?
Correct. Correct.
And would that contract duration be a year proposed, 6 months?
Of course, you guys direct that, but I was thinking it would be a year.
Well, I was just asking what came out of committee.
We used the contract for 2 other consultants, and I think they were 1-year contract with 30-day, can't be 100% sure, but my recollection is they were 1-year contract with 30-day termination periods, and I thought we'd use a similar type contract, similar consulting contract.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Alderman Morley?
No,
Okay.
wait, go ahead.
Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you. I'm curious as to who the committee had intended be the person monitoring the performance of Feinzoll on the monthly basis. Do you expect it to be staff, or did you expect reports to come to the committee monthly? And then the mechanism for reporting that back to the council, and who you anticipated would establish the benchmarks and the measures of success, and how that would be incorporated into the contract.
Refer to the chairman.
That's going to be chief cop's responsibility on all parts.
To establish the benchmarks and then prepare reports.
Yes.
And Vice Chairman Rose.
Further, it was my understanding from our committee discussion that we would receive monthly reports on that, and much like we do kind of monthly departmental reports, that we would also, that the council would get that as well. If I could do one further, I do think it would be instructive for us, even though Ms. Maloney is not going to be doing the same thing at some point. We did have some operational definitions in previous reports, and I will make sure that that we should look at that as well, because I think it does answer some questions about that.
Very good. Alderman Pezza?
Thank you. Just a couple of important last pieces to this. If this were to pass this evening, I am pleased to know this 12-sentence agreement we were shown is not going to be the case. I trust Mr. Storino will be an excellent contract, as are all others. I would just like a couple of things, if we can. I am still very concerned about this competition thing. If we're paying somebody to solicit for Elmhurst, I want them to be soliciting for Elmhurst, not be out there talking it up for two different communities, and whoever is the lucky one that gets them, but we're still both paying. Is there a way we can address that in the contract? I hope so. I would really like to see something in there, because otherwise it's not fair to the taxpayers. And as far as benchmarks, I would highly recommend if perhaps Assistant Manager Kopp, to me the best way to get those benchmarks is to go through the list as I did and speak to every one of these businesses that is listed as being recruited or assisted, and get their personal one-on-one feedback, because it absolutely does not reflect what is reported. I know people were not comfortable coming and speaking in public, addressing it. They asked me as their representative to voice their concerns. That is what I am doing. Once again, it's not my personal, it's their concerns. So I would say to base the benchmarks on what we learned from past experience and past clients and past. These are excellent, businesses. They're great business owners, great people, hardworking people. They all had something to say. So I would urge Assistant Manager Kopp to also take the time to speak personally to every one of these businesses, just so we know where we're going.
Very good. Alderman Morley.
I'll try to wrap it up as best I can. I think there's been some very good points made, Alderman Rose and others, and we did actually stress this in our committee, both to Chief Kopp and to Feinzall, that this is a pressure cooker, and we don't spend our money foolishly. We watch every penny. So if this goes through, you're going to be on the hot seat, and you better perform. And that is very clear, and I'd be hard-pressed to believe that that didn't get through to them tonight, who are sitting in the audience. It's very clear that should this pass, they're going to have to perform. There seems to be some concern or issue over the contract that was attached to the original report. Simply put, that was Feinzall's way of documenting their proposal. We informed them in the very first meeting, this will be a city contract. Thank you for your input, but this will be a city contract, so don't get hung up on any of the legal stuff that's there. Finally, I would say, and I make this offer to everyone on the council, if you ever have any questions, I think you all have my phone number. So I think it's a little tough if I were in Feinzall and Ms. Maloney's shoes to sit out in the audience and have a question on the report. I wonder, in all of the digging that the folks did, if they ever contacted anyone in the EEDC, if they ever contacted any member of the committee. I'm not sure. I wasn't contacted, but I'd be more than happy to clarify a report anytime. And finally, I wonder if anybody contacted Ms. Maloney, because it's very difficult at this point to refute or argue certain claims, especially when we're at this point. It's a difficult situation. I still firmly believe that this is the right thing to do, and I hope you will support it. I don't believe that taking our foot off the gas on economic development is the right thing to do at this time. Now, you might have issues with her past performance, and I can appreciate that, but as I said earlier, this is about what she's going to do for us now and what she's going to do for us in the near future. I hope you support this.
Thanks, Alderman Morley. Point well taken. Alderman Naibo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Alderman Morley. This is a disappointing process that we use to promote economic development tonight. I'm disappointed tonight.
Yep. Alderman Pezza.
I believe the process that we just exercised is called democracy and transparency, and I appreciate the opportunity to be transparent, and that is how I choose to do my business. I don't choose to do it on the telephone one-on-one with certain aldermen. I'm approached by constituents, by business owners. I'm asked to express concerns. I was on the phone until 5:30 this evening, still receiving phone calls about this. So I'm doing what I believe I was elected to do, and I believe in transparency, and that's how I choose to operate. So,
Very good. Alderman Rose.
I have just the last comment. I think economic development is, it's a tough nut to crack. I mean, part of it is it's skill, part of it's luck, part of it is making that right connection at the right time, and part of it is just hard work. And I think that's, we know that Kathy Maloney has got a pretty good track record, that she's a really hard worker. And the truth is, if we pass this, I would hope that we would all really do the best that we could to support that work, because in the end, it's good for all of us. I think it's good for our property values, our schools, our parks. So even though we disagree, I would really hope in the end we would say, if we pass this, let's give it our best shot, and really give her and that company as good a chance as we can to be successful. That's really what we need to do.
Very good. I think we got a good discussion. It is getting late, so if I don't hear anybody else for discussion, I am going to ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Morley.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
No.
Pezza.
no.
Shea.
No.
Leader.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Hipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Healy, absent. Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
No.
Wagner.
Aye.
Looks like 8 ayes, 5 nays, and 1 absent.
8 ayes, 5 nays, and 1 absence. The report passes. And I also wanted to make a mention, discussion about businesses still coming to Elmhurst in this economy. In the state of the city, I mentioned Stenograph and Graymark. Stenograph is a company that left Mount Prospect, Cook County, and was recruited by actually a local commissioner who serves in our Economic Development Corporation, and brings in $50 million a year in sales tax producing, and I believe has about 100 employees. They took over the old Comcast building up on the north side, right off Oak Lawn and Grand. Also, Graymark is about, I believe, $20 million in sales, and brings in sales tax. Roughly 35 employees left North Lake to come over to Elmhurst because of our low property tax rate and our location and our low sales tax. So I think this town is in a great position for a economic recovery. I think if we have people dialing out looking for businesses at this time, I think we could recruit a lot of businesses, both retail and industrial, to help bring our tax base in again so that we get those sales tax numbers back up. And we welcome Kathy Maloney aboard to make that happen. So we look forward to working with you. And I would appreciate everybody's support. As Alderman Wagner said, we don't have, this is a part-time job for all of us up here, but we're all part of the team, and ideas and suggestions and companies that we might want to have recruited, while we physically maybe can't go out there and knock on their door, now we've got somebody that can for us. So please let's work with Kathy, and let's ring the bell for Elmhurst and bring our tax base back up to what it should be. So very good. On to item number 8, which is reports and recommendations of appointed and elected officials. Updates from myself initially. I just want to comment on what I would say was, despite a bad weather day, a phenomenal St. Patrick's Day parade. Many of us were out in force, city team out in front. ECAF was the Grand Marshal, and we had that long train out there, but I believe 130 entries, about an hour and a half long parade. And I got to tell you, when it was raining all day long. I was wondering how many people would come out, but I think it shows how strong Elmhurst is and how Irish we all are, even half Irish guys like myself, to participate in a great day for Elmhurst. Second largest parade, I believe, in the state of Illinois. So another successful St. Patrick's Day. Tomorrow, myself and many of the aldermen, along with City Manager Borchard, are going to be going down to Springfield and the drive down for DuPage mayors and managers. So I look forward to working with the group and be doing various lobbying efforts and the pension bills that are down there. I've got 2 Senate bills myself that I'll be lobbying as well on behalf of education. So look forward to that drive down. Also, wanted to mention, I did talk briefly with Senator Cronin regarding the DuPage Water Commission and voice some of the concerns that the mayors have. And, you know, we've got a challenge over there with some accounting discrepancies. And, but at the same time, we, as mayors, we are very concerned about the water fund staying in the water fund, et cetera. So Senator Cronin did assure me with this move legislatively to have the county oversee this, that would stay intact. So the water dollars would stay in the water fund. The sales tax rebate that is part of that would also stay in that particular utility fund. And he is looking to make government smaller and to basically streamline things and make things more accountable. But those are some concerns naturally on the municipality side that we all have. But that's one thing I wanted to mention. I'm sure we'll be talking about that this week too while we're down in Springfield. So with that, open up to anybody else. Have any reports or recommendations from elected officials today? Okay. Any other business? And Alderman Rose.
Yeah, I see in our packet we received an application for the appointment of William Huber to our Development Commission, and I'm just curious what happened to the application of Mr. Hiffman, Mr. Dan Hiffman? Draw his name. What happened to that application?
You know what? I believe I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the Hiffman situation. Mr. Huber, I believe, is a McMaster-Carr employee that is looking to get on the commission. So, but we can.
Follow up on that.
Yeah,
I just want to say, because I said this before, I was so excited to see the application of Mr. Hiffman because he is a resident of the 3rd Ward, and we don't get a lot of our folks on commissions. I'd like to see that change a little bit. But I also think it's a cautionary tale for all of us that when folks apply to unpaid positions like commissions, we all, myself included, we should all be very cautious about what we say about these folks in terms of their character. They're really offering to serve. So if Mr. Hiffman has decided not to, I think that's a real shame. If it's just in the works, then I want to encourage him to continue. I would love to see, again, someone from the 3rd Ward be on some of these commissions. That's very important to me. Right. I would agree with you wholeheartedly, Alderman Rose. And not only somebody from the 3rd Ward, and I think that's great because we want North Side representation. As a former North Sider, I'm with you. But also the prestiginess of the individual and the firm that he represents. I believe Mr. Borchard had showed me a statistic in Cranes where the firm that he represents is rated #1 in commercial retail real estate. And to have a person of that magnitude, I just mentioned the 2 firms that came to Elmhurst. They were brought in by a commissioner, who's a commercial real estate broker. And to have people on those commissions that are professionals of what they do, that's why we need those people. And as a follow-up, well, we just find out if he's removed his name. I just be curious about that. Absolutely, we'll look into that and make sure that we follow up. And many of us hopefully can encourage him to stay on. He does a great job and has done well for the city of Elmhurst. Alderman Gutenkopf.
Yeah, actually, Alderman Rose's question just brought to my mind our typical practice of people serving on commissions until either they leave the commission voluntarily or when their term is up, somebody's appointed to replace them. So I had been under the assumption, perhaps erroneously, that Mr. Hiffman was still serving on the commission. Did he
He is still serving,
He is still
correct.
serving on the
He
commission.
is still serving.
So he's still
Believe so.
serving on the commission pending his reappointment, so he's sort of in an open
Correct.
kind of a situation right now.
Correct.
So he won't be officially reappointed until the council approves that, but we asked for the application form, and that's what we're waiting for, right?
Correct, correct. Anybody else? Alderman York, do you have a hand up? No? We're good? Other business? Okay, announcements. Anybody? Alderman Pezza? And I'll go to our Queen Clerk Spencer over there.
Thank you. Just a quick
Keeps.
announcement. The next Ward 1 Coffee and Conversation, which has been going very well, we're really enjoying it, is March 25th at the Elmhurst Point, the new senior housing apartment. They graciously offered to host it for us. They'll be serving free coffee and donuts. It's from 8:30 until 10 a.m., March 25th. It's a Thursday morning at the Elmhurst Point at 111 3rd Street. And the chair of the Senior Citizen Commission, also Kathy Jordan, has offered to join me for the first half of the meeting and answer any questions for the seniors may have. So everyone's invited.
Very good. And Kathy Jordan is an excellent resource for seniors. She knows where just about every service available to seniors is and how they work with the city. I know Alderman Rose and I are both fond of an organization that we serve, Metropolitan Family Services, with some information in our packet about how many clients they serve, many seniors, counseling, cradle-to-grave counseling that they do, and the city supports, which I think is great. So for all the aldermen that might see this and what is this? These are, the city of Elmhurst values their seniors. We have the largest senior population in DuPage, and we want to make sure that they're as happy and felt that they're cared about as much as possible. So having a mom that's a senior, I can appreciate that. Anybody else for announcements? Oh, Clerk Spencer?
Thank you. I just want to announce to everyone that the Elmhurst Memorial Hospital Guild will present their 10th annual Chef Fest Passport to Flavor on Thursday, March 25th at Drury Lane. And if you want any information about this event or how to buy tickets, visit the hospital's website at www.emhc.org. And it's a great event, and we usually get about 700 people, so another 100 is always welcome.
There you go. And it's a great place to not only support a great cause like Elmhurst Hospital, but also to experience all the fine restaurants that we have in our community. Just about every restaurant is there represented, and they've got some great eats, and it's actually pretty inexpensive night out. So, thank you, Patty. Anybody else for announcements? All righty. Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Alderman Morley, Alderman York, all in favor by voice vote, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We're adjourned.